Chris. Hi, Wilhelm.
Hallo. Sorry.
Good to see you. Wonderful.
Richtig, ja. Jetzt haben wir es. Wunderbar.
Christine, do you want to say something? So we...
Is it better now?
It's better now, yeah.
Perfect.
Good, but you have to speak up a little bit. Alrighty. Yes. Can you just put in, when can I see the notes? Of course. Ah, here, got it. Okay, here we go. Well, hello everybody. Very, very exciting to have you here on our talk today. We start, are you ready? We need to kick it off.
Ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, you know, because over the last Loop Faces talk, there were so many of our wonderful people listening. They said, you know, 5 o'clock Tuesday, it's my time. It's like gin tonic time, and we're always looking forward to this hour with amazing people we have on board here. And for me, it was also a special time because it's a highlight over the last 7 weeks. We get to talk, we get to communicate, we have a good feeling, you know, and we get to speak to people that have a wonderful career, it always reminds me we forget how much we have achieved in our past, and I think we forget that so often. And talking to each other, we realize how cool that is. So let me introduce my wonderful people today to the audience. I would like to start with Iris. Iris, she's in Hamburg. She's based in Hamburg, and we know each other a long time. You used to work for a travel trade magazine in Germany that was not luxury at all, but for some reason we kept on doing these really crazy promotions for the super high-end luxury. I was working for Fregat Island at that time, 4,000 euros a night, and we were doing promotions, and for some reason you were always attracted with this luxury segment, right? And we did the craziest promotion at that time. That was really unique. So finally, 5 years ago, she decided to open her own company. It's called LuxusInsider, and it's a B2B, not only it's a B2B luxury high-end magazine. Actually, it's a monthly digital magazine, and every Monday you have a newsletter coming up, which everybody's always looking forward to, because it's for the German-speaking market, the collective information for us here. So very happy to have you on board, Iris, from Hamburg. Then I'm going to move to Roman. Roman is based in Zurich. Roman has learned the travel agency business from scratch. Actually, you love it. You are 100% it. And besides other things, you were a flight attendant for Swiss for 5 years. So you've seen places in the world that nobody
even else. Swiss Air, very important.
Swiss Air at that time. That's right. You're right. And you've worked at very prominent addresses, like you founded. Also, you were not the founder, but you created. It was called Black. What was it called? Black Label. That was from Globus Reisen. It was a luxury brand. And then you were at last address was Kroni Concierge in the Bahnhofstraße in Zurich, which is the address. When we were hoteliers and we got an appointment there, that was just perfect. I mean, that was very special because it's the address to go. And then you were actually always very young in your career. With 25, you were already a leader of a good travel agency. And then you founded RSelection. How many years ago now? Seven years ago. Your only private personal luxury boutique travel agency. In Zurich, very successful. Your passion is amazing. And you also founded a new baby, which is not taking off as well as it should because of Corona, but it will. And I really love it because when I talked to you, you said a last sentence to me last time. You said, it's such a privilege to work in this industry. I'm so proud, I'm so privileged, and you just love it and live it. With or without Corona, you just keep on loving it. And that's fantastic. Welcome, Roman.
Thank you very much.
Christine. Christine is in Macau in China. Very honored to have you here. We know each other also many, many moons. You you're so sweet. You said yesterday, I'm the Astrid of Asia, which I thought was really cute. So you have a representation company in Asia with 7 offices.
Yeah, or a bit more than that, but we cover 7 countries, distinctive
7 countries, yeah. Amazing. So you are actually born and raised in France, and you have been, when you worked for Budweiser and the beer, you have been to BAUR first in 1997, and since then you just said, I fell so much in love with Asia. You returned to Paris at that time, and then you packed your 2 suitcases. You lied to your parents. You said, I'm going to Asia. I have a job, which you did not have. And you just took off and you never came back. And I have to say, if somebody does that, he must be in love with Asia. He must be in love with culture. And we are really very happy and very curious to hear about the Asian market, about the Chinese market, that you share all your, really your wisdom and your knowledge with us. And you lived in lots of places in Bali. You founded your own company. You were a very young entrepreneur as well. And actually, you founded Heaven's Portfolio, is the name of the company, 15 years ago. You worked for Shiva Soma at that time, the director of sales, and wanted to move to Macau because your husband got a great job opportunity there, if I'm not mistaken. And the owner of Shiva Som, it was a visionary. He was, I think, Prime Minister of Thailand.
He was Prime Minister of Thailand, yes.
Yeah, a very visionary, wonderful person. And he said to you, okay, if you do that, I want you to work for me and represent Shiva Som in Asia. And that was your first client. So an amazing career you had, and lots to hear. We also want to hear, how is it for a European woman to open and work in Asia? I think this is super exciting. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you very much, Astrid. Thank you.
So Wilhelm, he's in Zurich. Hello. It's so good to see you here. You know, I checked how long we know each other.
Oh, don't count the years, please.
Yes, I did. 23 years we know each other. Can you imagine? I went on LinkedIn and I checked out the addresses and said, when did I? So actually at that time, you were at the NASA in Cyprus.
Good memories.
Yeah, very good memories. You had a lot of great places in your careers. That Cayman Island, that was before NASA, Oberoi, Mauritius, and the one before, BOLAC, where you now, was the Excelsior Ernst in Cologne. You were there 7 years, which is also, you were always very, very long at these great addresses. And you are also someone I really appreciate, because if we come up with a crazy idea, you say, yeah, let's do it. And I think it's so great because you always work for traditional places. And you just doesn't matter. We're creative. And I really like that a lot about you. And now you're at this beautiful BOLAC in Zurich at the lake with an amazing culture and leadership as well, because I also remember you saying, you know, Astrid, the BOLAC hardly ever gives up any suppliers if it's the farmer that delivers eggs or whatever. You have a really great culture and leadership. You work with the people. I mean, they really have to commit a crime, I think, but I love that because it's, you know, not hire and fire. It's building people, creating people. And I think this is the BOLAC as such, because it's what is it, 17? When was it? When was this BOLAC?
1844.
1844, yeah, amazing. So a long history there. You're not so old, but no. Inexperienced. It's a great pleasure to have you, William, on our panel today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
loved it, yeah. I'd love to kick it off, and I would like to ask you a very personal question before we start. The question is that what was your best takeaway during Corona, during the crisis when it started up to now? What was your best takeaway that you kind of say, okay, if that wouldn't have happened, I would have never made that experience and changed something in my life or in my job? I have several of these, I have to say. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're all still in trouble. We are all not well, financially especially. We're all suffering. I don't want to, but there's always something positive about what we are doing. Christine, do you want to start?
Oh gosh, there's so much I've learned from this. And today I'm learning patience. I'm normally a very impatient person. I'm always on the go, and I run a very busy operation with many people spread across the whole of Asia. So I tend to be quite impatient. I like things to be done very, 24 hours is my turnaround time. And with this COVID, because it's taking so long, and we've gone through ups and downs. It's a bit like a roller coaster. So you learn to be patient, and you learn to also go back to the old time when our parents are saying, take the time, think it through. And it's probably one of my best take of the COVID is to perhaps be prepared and analyze things, and see where is the opportunities, where we're gonna go. It's a wonderful time to be able to recenter ourselves.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I can only agree 100%. Wilhelm, what about you?
Well, we all had a lot of stress, of course, but we want to talk about the positive things. I would name two things. On a personal line, I had a little bit more time with my wife, and we had, because it was a wonderful spring weather, we had a lot of really nice walks through nature. That was really very good. We didn't have so much time for us for a long time. But then on a business side, I must say, we have a very strong, as you mentioned earlier, we are thinking long term. So we have a lot of long-standing staff. We have a lot of very engaged people. But what I realized when Corona all in a sudden, like a big avalanche came above us, and the creative energy that was loosened. People, because within a few days we had to get organized. The IT department had to make sure we will function online. We will function with home office, and all of a sudden we thought, wow, we cannot lose connection. We have to stay connected. We have to maintain our positive energies. So within a few days, 5-6 people from the team came up with an idea. We will establish BAUR Flix. BAUR Flix became an internal TV program where our training department, various department heads, line staff put programs together. They had yoga sessions, secretaries did cooking classes from home, Wiener Apfelstrudel, a lot of nice things. We had 2 chefs who did weekly cooking competitions, everything online. There was also some training, but there was also fun sessions. One of our head waiters gave guitar classes. So there was twice a day a program. And last week we did the 100th session of this. So this is really something I will take along, because I heard in the meantime from many other colleagues that said, well, we had a real challenge over that COVID time to all of a sudden reconnect with our staff. They all went from one day to the other into furlough, and they were gone, and then we had to find them again. And we stayed connected from day one onwards. And I now feel, when everybody comes back step by step and increasingly, that there is a fantastic energy. And of course, there is a lot of new ideas that came now up, because people stayed connected, they stayed engaged at home, and then now they come back to the hotel. So it was never a sort of a break. There was never a huge gap. It was a different way of communicating, but we always stayed together in a way, and I can really sense now that this energy is really very positive.
Even more positive now.
Absolutely.
My gosh.
No, this is really something
it's cool.
very impressed.
I agree with you, absolutely. There are companies that are still in the dark, and there are others that will really shine and are shining for sure, because of the team, for sure. Iris, what about you? What is your best takeaway of this awful crisis?
Well, I must say that when work-wise, we didn't really have to change a lot because being a completely digital company, we just looked each other in the eye on March 2nd and said, okay, let's go home and work. Because we're used to working from whichever hotel lobby in the world is hosting us at the moment. So we just turned around, did the same work with the same program, reaching the same readers and the same customers that we've talked to before. So that was not a big thing. For me, two big takeaways were two big, should I say, surprises, but very pleasant ones, was certainly my team, who did not complain once in this whole mess, who did not let the situation scare them, although it was pretty scary, as we all know. That was that. And for me personally, I must say I would have never been able to press a pause button for myself. I mean, last year I had 68 business trips. And then this year somebody came and pressed that pause button for me. And even though I hated it for the first couple of weeks, it's actually quite healthy. And yeah, I get new energy.
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool. I can only sign that, agree to that. Roman, what about you, a pause button?
Oh, full stop, because as you probably know, I'm commuting between Zurich and Düsseldorf, so that also was a full stop at the mid of March. Actually, it started on my birthday. We came back on my birthday from a shortened US trip, and I was literally locked in my second home in Düsseldorf. But I think my biggest takeaway during this time was the relationships we all have. Already before, we all knew how important this is, whether it's in the industry, whether it's with friends, or of course also family boundaries. But in this time, in this difficult time, you could really see who your friends are, with whom you're in touch. You got emails from people you haven't heard maybe for quite a while, or even text messages, or you started to use new technologies like Zoom, FaceTime. I was never a big fan of these video calls so far. But for me, it was really a good time to see who your closest are and what relationships are about. I think we are still in a very challenging situation, all of us, but thanks also to these relationships, we'll manage to get through it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Iris, you have always filled, since you founded already LuxusInsider, filled a gap in the media world with your niche publication, with your niche magazines. How do you see your role in the B2B media? Because this is what it's all about. Everybody relies on your feedback in the luxury B2B market in the German-speaking countries, and how has it changed during COVID? I mean, your business model, how are you coming along now? What are you doing to, to survive? Yeah.
Okay, so our role hasn't changed at all. Information, valid information is needed now more than ever before. We can clearly see that when it comes to traffic. We've never had more readers, we've never had people spend more time on the magazine. I mean, obviously also because they have more time, because a lot of them are on furlough or at least working reduced hours. But definitely we can see that information is needed, so we are needed, which is wonderful. So if there was a change at all, I would say that the crisis accelerated this. But when it comes to business, obviously, since we're living by selling advertisement, that obviously came to a complete stop, which is not surprised. I was surprised that in April we had to call customers and say, not this month. We wouldn't recommend that. Please hold your ad back for a while. So yeah, we had 1 month with 0 revenue, which isn't fun, obviously. But since we've been around for a while, a bad quarter isn't great, but you can survive. And now we see silver linings on the horizon. We see things starting again, and everybody's very, very eager to communicate with our target group, with that niche market, with those luxury tour operators and travel agents, to keep them updated on what's going on in their destination and their hotel. So I think we're as important as we've always been, if not more.
Absolutely, yeah. No, definitely. And I think you have become, people are looking forward because you're something constant, you know, people need constant consistency in crisis times, and you were still there, you didn't stop, you were there, and that was really cool. And thank you for that.
And we do something that you always do. We're always positive. We're always giving hope. We never said, oh shit, our world is collapsing. I mean, yes, it was for a while, or that's what it felt like.
Right.
But we're always trying to give hope and always say, remember, people don't forget to travel. People will want to travel again, and especially the luxury segment. And we get a lot of positive feedback from our readers about that.
Cool, that's good to hear. Amazing, that's great. William, talking about luxury clients, I think you never really closed completely, did you? Were still open because you had some major clients there. Or how did that work? Tell us, how did you handle that?
Well, obviously, when the lockdown was announced in Switzerland, that was the 16th of March, the question came to our mind what to do. We saw that around us, most of them started to close within days because they realized the business was already collapsed within a few days. And from an economical point of view, it made a lot of sense to close hotels. For us, the situation was a little bit different because we have a number of permanent guests. And we had also instantly some regular guests calling us, are you still open? Are you going to stay open? Because we still have to travel. These were people who had to travel within Switzerland. So we quickly crunched the figures. What does it take? If the hotel is closed, there need to be a minimum staffing anyway, because you cannot just lock the door and put the key under the floor mat. You still have a number of people that need to be in the hotel for safety reasons, for matters of telephone responding, reservations. There's a lot of processes that go on anyway. And then we thought, well, how many more staff will it take to run the hotel on a very minimum scale for some guests? And then we thought also of what kind of business models could we add. And then, of course, the idea of food deliveries came up. So we thought, well, we have one or two chefs in the kitchen, so he can do food deliveries and he can look after the guests in the hotel. So it all, in a way, worked out that we could earn a little bit more money to maintain these extra costs for a few more staff that we had to keep in the hotel. And I think it was the right decision, because then when we came towards the end of the lockdown, I know from a lot of hotel colleagues, they were really struggling. What will be the right moment to open? This question never came to us, because for them, they said, well, we don't have any reservations, so we are not open. But if you're not open, you will not get reservations. So we could scale in small steps the business up. And I think it was a very good decision. But I must say, it was a good decision for us, for our business model. I'm not saying this would have been the right formula for everyone. But for us, it really worked very well. And it helped also, what I said earlier, to maintain the connection with the staff, because everybody had its term to come in and to do a few hours. So that way, the emotions could flow as well.
Yeah, excellent. I hear that a lot in sales and marketing. From all the hotels, we realized when the hotel only is really open, that the bookings are coming in most of the time. Yeah, but this is not a good signal. We're opening them. For some reason, people are just they don't trust. They don't believe.
Yeah, and of course, in that way, we stayed in touch with the market, because we did food deliveries. And then we had all of a sudden, within a few weeks, we had guests calling in and say, whoa, it's my birthday. Can I come for a dinner? And we said, no, but you can stay with us and then you can have dinner. So they booked the room and then we cooked the dinner. So this created a bit of extra business. And then you had people who said, well, I do home office, but I just can't bear any longer with it. Can I have a room and I can walk in your room? Of course you can. So, this worked out very well.
Great, thank you, William. Nice insight, wonderful. Christine, your region is about 2 months ahead with closing borders, China, and so on. So where do you guys stand at the moment, and how is the travel behavior of the Chinese? I mean, we talk on a weekly basis almost, and I was always like thinking, oh my God, they're 2 months ahead in advance. So we will be there as well. So how is the situation? Tell us.
Well, it's interesting because we used to be 2 months in advance, and now it feels like we are a bit you know, behind, because you in Europe are now open and traveling again, whereas in Asia we're still within our borders. So you know, Asia is a big market. So if I look at India, Singapore, Hong Kong, and China and Taiwan, they're in different you know, lockdown situation. Singapore is just in phase 2 of reopening, and it's only for essential businesses. So unfortunately, we can't go back to the office for now. India is split in between the north and the south, with Mumbai being pretty badly hit, and we can't go back to office for now. In Macau, you know, we're a little bit in the bubble. We've been closed for now early March, and until now we can't even go to Hong Kong. So I used to, you know, regularly go to my office in Hong Kong, but haven't had a chance to escape for that long. In China, the border has been literally locked since 23rd of January, just before Chinese New Year. So it's a very, very long time, and we really hoping that there's some form of travel bubbles that are going to be, you know, opening and bursting soon, to be able to, you know, get us out a little bit. They've been talking between some provinces of China in the south, in Guangzhou area and Shenzhen, and between Hong Kong and Macau, where cases were limited. But yeah, it's still quite locked. Taiwan is also by itself. They've done it. They've actually handled it very well, and they're pretty healthy there. Everybody's wondering perhaps about Beijing, because we hear in the media about the second wave, or so-called second wave. But it was actually, I was reading the news tonight, and it's over. So there is no second wave per se. The government took it very early on and managed to contain it very quickly. I was just sharing another discussion that, you know, the cities where in China are built in a way that you can easily close off areas. So I think the government is very well prepared for this kind of cluster bursting in certain places.
Very interesting.
So, you know, in terms of cases, we're pretty okay. I'm just worried a little bit more about India, but the rest of Asia is quite clear. Thailand hasn't had much cases. Bali, which is a very strong destination for us in Asia, is also quite safe. So we're hoping that there will be some travel or corridors of travel between our markets, and that will be probably the first opening for Asia. And then perhaps further down the line in September, October, we see Europe coming up. Now, what came out of the crisis and you know, the consequences of COVID on travel trend is diverse. So first, I think we are going a lot more digital, and I think in the day-to-day, as well as the way we sell properties and luxury destination and luxury properties, it's becoming a lot more digital. So it was already on the way, but it has taken off very, very quickly. Then I think during the lockdown, because it was quite a long lockdown, the Chinese market and consumer have been doing a lot of research. And whereas they knew they were going to go to Europe or South America or New Zealand, they now did a lot of research, a lot of homework on what exactly they want to do there. So it's a big, more of a purpose for travel. And it used to be a market that was hopping around, so they would do many cities in 1 week, and as many pictures as possible, you know. And it was, we don't have Instagram, but we have WeChat, so it was a lot of posting on WeChat, and all of these things seems to be moving away from the market. They seem to be wanting to stay put and explore in a more thorough way. understand the DNA, understand the experiences, the country, the locals. So I think we'll see a change and a shift in the way they travel, which is good in a way for hotels, because they'll have longer stay. Now we see that wellness is a very strong element, as well as family travel. We expect FIT travel, individual travel, to take off first. Group will come later, but in China, you know, family is often a group, considered a group in Europe. So I think this is where we need to also, from a hotel perspective, we need to ramp up our game when it comes to family offering. And it's a big learning, you know, moving on when operationally hotels gonna tap into the market again. So that's very much where we are. Digital, longer stay. We already, you know, it's a big trend at the moment for book now and travel later. So we've been doing a lot of these campaigns on our market, and they've been fairly successful. We're doing live streaming, so we do sales on live streaming. I was just looking at the record of how much sales been made on live streaming. So it's changed a lot, but I think it's for the better, and I think we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to be changing the way we communicate with the market as well, and it's a natural, you know, evolution. I guess we're learning from it, and we have to adjust and adapt to it.
Absolutely. Wow. Wonderful. Thank you for this great insight. I think it's very, very exciting, and we can learn from each other country-wise, definitely. That's wonderful. Now we are hopping to Switzerland from Asia. It's a market, everybody wants, of course, the Asian market as hoteliers, etc. But Roman, I mean, you are the specialist for luxury outbound travel with your boutique agency, working for high-end clients. And the Swiss client is a very special one, obviously. You guys, we want them all. If you're on the hotel side, big spenders, etc., you're going to tell us about it. How is the travel behavior at the moment from the Swiss people? Are they thinking of booking, and how are they? What's their DNA? Has it changed? Love to hear from you about that.
Well, I would say it hasn't changed that much. It was just on hold because you couldn't make any plans at all. It was totally unclear when the borders will reopen. At the beginning was actually very weird. One border closed, the other not. Transit rules were different. But since 2 weeks, roughly, or say the third week now, since it's clear that we have confirmed open borders, first within Europe, but some international now. We just got the information from the Maldives today that they're going to open on July 15th as well, with no quarantine or tests upon entrance to the country. So I think that helps to give confidence again to the clients. And we can see that as well, that people start making plans again, whether it's last minute. This could be within Switzerland, of course, but also in Europe. Some of them, we don't have the seas, we just have the lakes. So some of them are eager to feel the sea breeze again, and either they take a car and drive down to Italy, France, or Croatia, or even to the North Sea coast. But some of them are starting to book kind of a last minute, and momentarily we see Mallorca, Marbella, and Mykonos, the 3 M's, ramping up first. These are the bookings we have. But also on the other hand, we see that people are starting to postpone. We had several big trips, of course, during spring, Easter time, especially to Japan, Vietnam. All these Asian destinations were pretty strong at. And people put most of the trips on hold. They didn't really cancel, but they didn't want to define when they had to cancel the trip at this time. And we also see that we get the dates now, let's say, so for 2021. And so the last 2-3 weeks are getting busier, which is a good sign and a good feeling, and gives us confidence that especially the luxury industry, they still have the money, our clients, they still have the need to explore, to see different countries and even visit friends or family all over the world. They will definitely start traveling again.
Yeah, and the Swiss client, if I understand, you said something to me that, I mean, the level of bookings in general in the Swiss population is very high. Swiss hardly book any 3-star hotels. Did I understand this correctly?
They probably do, maybe not through us, but
yeah, no, that's for you, but that's what I yeah.
If you see the brochures, even from the mass tour operators published in Switzerland, the hotels in there, they start at 3 stars, even 4 stars sometimes. I remember my early days in the industry, and we had these 1 or 2-star hotels in Spain and Greece in the brochure, and you don't find them anymore because there is no demand. The Swiss is always considered as the golden middle or middle upper class, so a 3-4 star for the mass, I would say is the right choice. For us, of course, we're even aiming higher.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, we are in a niche. That's what we are specialized in, and I think this is what we have to do and concentrate on. Wilhelm, talking about Switzerland, Asia, how do you see the future of Switzerland in terms of demand? I mean, obviously the Asian market was very important, is very important for Switzerland. And also we hear a lot of people say, yeah, city hotels are going to struggle because business travel is going to come back later. But of course now the BAUR or Zurich, I don't consider it's more, for me, it's a leisure city, to be honest. How do you see that at the moment for the future? And is there anything you are adapting, have to adapt?
Yeah, well, maybe I can put it in different stages. I think overall the Corona crisis is not really changing the world, but it is certainly accelerating certain trends that have already pre-existed. That's in terms of market trends, that's in terms of technology and many other things. I don't think anything particularly new may really come out, but it's maybe sort of the concentration on things that were already on the map. Yeah. Now, when it comes to travel habits and market trends, I think the Far East market will come back. I'm very convinced. For Switzerland altogether, it was in the last few years very much a group dominated, not a mass market, but a more group market. I think this will change now. We had already seen that because we are mainly dealing with FITs anyway. So we have seen increasingly Chinese coming to us and other Asian nations on an individual basis. And I think that with the experience of COVID and maybe also with the precautions related to it, I think the individual travel will increase, and that will be to the benefit of the 5-star deluxe hotels, I believe. And for other for sort of foreign markets, I think the US market again will probably bounce back a little bit later. That will take time, but I'm very, very much convinced they will come back.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's also time for the Germans to discover Switzerland even more as well. Because
there's actually an interesting aspect, because when I was talking with tourist experts and also with fellow colleagues from the hotel industry in Switzerland, there was of course very quickly the fear that there may be a big fight about pricing and erosion of pricing. And I was very early saying, friends, if people are not traveling at that very moment, they will not travel because they get a special deal. If there's fears, if there's some deterring factors against travel, the price will not make a difference. To the contrary, people will probably be much more selective where they go. It's a matter of trust. It's a matter of finding the right place where things are done in a proper way, that you can feel safe, but you don't feel like being in a hospital either. So and now, a few weeks into the after lockdown period, I can see 100% of that theory being in place. If we are short in certain categories, it's at the moment the top categories. It's the suites that are booked most. It's the junior suites that are booked most. That means the distinguished travelers are already on the road. They're traveling and they're not discussing prices. They just want to have great service and they want to make sure they're in a safe place. I think that's really the trend. So I'm not surprised, but I'm pleased because sometimes you have your ideas about how it may be. You know, sometimes it comes not the same way, but in that instance, I can confirm it's exactly what I thought.
Excellent. I think
and
that's
if I may add, you know, Switzerland. If I take the example of Switzerland, because we had a number of panel discussion about destination and where the market feels safer. And China for sure was saying Switzerland in Europe is number one on the list. This is where they feel that the crisis was very well handled, and it has not had any negative press in China or Asia in general. So I think Switzerland overall benefits of a great reputation. And it also has to do with hospital and wellness and fresh air and the way of living. I think you know, I'm very positive about Switzerland, you know, being one of the first market after the crisis for us.
Very good point. And Wilhelm, also the message about the pricing and the discount, I think that's music in all of our ears here, because I'm 100% with you. This is also what we hear, and I think that's a very, very good observation you have. Iris, you are a new baby. We all have these babies was a little bit a victim of Corona as well. It's like we had Luke, you know, starting mid of March, 5 days before it was just cancelled by the Chancellor of Vienna. 5 days before, bang, 1 year work against the wall. And you're just like, my God, what was this? So we all have these projects, more or less, some are more expensive than others, and you wanted to go internationally. With LuxusInsider, you had this vision already last year. I want to move on. I want to make LuxusInsider, set it up on a B2B international basis, and that was supposed to be in April. So you wanted to launch in April. And what I would be curious in is, you know, if you want to cover the entire world, maybe, I don't know if that's the goal or certain countries, the German speaking, we heard Swiss, Asian, everybody, that the clients, the travelers, or also the agents have different, yeah, they're different. They have different needs. So how are you going to manage this online magazine to reach the majority of the people? Is that possible? How are you going to do that? And when are you going to launch it? Now.
That's a very interesting question. We don't know yet, to be very honest. We could see the finish line. We were supposed to announce it at ITB, and then we were supposed to launch it mid-April. Obviously, it has been delayed and rescheduled like almost every other tourism-related project. I must say, on the one hand, for the first 3 seconds, we were shocked. Then I must be very honest, it was also a chance to take the time to, you know, to go over it, to do some more fine tuning than we would have otherwise been doing. Yes, so the situation internationally is a little bit different. To enter the German market with a B2B magazine on luxury travel was a no-brainer because there was nothing like it. Internationally, there are some always limited to their countries. Mostly print, and most of what I've seen is certainly amazing from the journalistic standpoint, but maybe lacking a little bit of sex appeal. From what we've learned in the last 5 years that we've worked with the German community of travel advisors is that they don't only find us convenient, and they don't only think that it's important to read us, they love us, they love to read us, they think the magazine is fun. And I don't see a reason why we shouldn't bring this to an international level. So it's super easy because it's digital. So no matter where, if that person is in Thailand or in Switzerland or in Timbuktu, they can all read us the same. So that won't be a problem. Obviously, the language will be English. And to be perfectly honest with you, we've thought about the same thing, and obviously different markets work a little bit different. But when it comes down to the DNA, we all share the passion of selling luxury travel. And I do think that you can bring that to, if you really boil it down, you can bring that to a core that applies to everyone. And since don't forget, we hardly do any strategic things. We're mostly product based. So if we're talking about new destination opening up, Rwanda being a trend, Montenegro coming there, fantastic hotels being built, new ships being launched, that's interesting for almost all markets. And it'll be the same like now. Now a reader looks at the magazine and 40, 50, maybe 60% of the content is interesting to that specific reader, and the rest maybe not in that issue, but then the next issue. But for another reader, another 60% is interesting. And I think the international issue won't be that much different.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. And everybody who knows you will all support you, because I think it's great what you're doing, and keep on going. Your entrepreneurship, it's great. Don't lose it. And I'm happy you're hanging on to it. You guys are coming.
A lot more things on our plate, don't worry.
I'm sure, yeah. You are coming to Loop in November, to Austria and Tyrol, all three of you. I'm very happy. It's going to be a super highlight, I think, for everyone. Now, Roman, you also have a baby that you had to put on hold, and you already decided, I can't remember when, but it was already September last year, to do luxury incoming for Switzerland, because it's so obvious. It's a beautiful destination. So many people are attracted by Switzerland. So it's called RSelection. And it was supposed to kick off beginning of the year. Then came Corona. And so how are you handling this at the moment? And do you think that it's maybe even a better chance for you now with RSelection to go on the market than it was before Corona? Because people need trust. They need to trust somebody. Yeah? How do you see that? What's your plans?
Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't say it's better or not better, but I say it's definitely not a bad time to have the work already done last year to start RSelection. And the idea actually came up, maybe just to explain this, through to our extensive network worldwide. We've often been asked, can we book Switzerland through you, or can we ask you for some advice from agency friends all over the world? Because they often kind of missed this personal approach, like we also have it with RSelection. And that was the idea behind it. And we started to create the name first, and then the logo, and then the website. And we're supposed to be ready by end of October. And we were actually, the website is live since end of October in English at the moment. We had some personal staff changes then at the beginning of the year. That was the first challenge. And we were in talks, and almost, let's say, a couple of days before of the signature of the for the contract for somebody new who's going to be the head of RSelection behind it and represent us as a product manager, but also doing sales and some operations as well. And she's actually on the panel tonight. I can officially announce it because we just signed last Thursday together that she's starting now from September 1st officially.
So welcome.
She's watching us. Sophie Oldenbrook from Travel & Made used to be. She will start for RSelection, and she will be the new face behind RSelection. And I think we did the homework, and Sophie, of course, with me and my team, we can now take this opportunity to show everybody that Switzerland is a safe destination, a small country with a cosmopolitan approach, a lot to offer, from amazing nature to excellent world-class hotels. I think there is no other country with so many luxury 5-star deluxe hotels within such a small area. And we are Swiss. Also, Sophie is half Swiss and loves Switzerland. And I think I told you that in a call we had earlier last week. I think it's all about the passion, and we have the passion for whatever we do, and I think that's very important. So we really want to push this Switzerland and show the world, regardless from where these travelers are coming from, that Switzerland has so much to offer. So one of the first things actually we're going to do now is we translate the website into German. So all the Germans, please don't hesitate to consult the website for any information, any idea, any advice. And of course, we're here with the team as well.
Great. And then in Chinese, right?
In Chinese, sure.
Next step. I got you.
Well, welcome, Sophie. Yeah, I can call Christine. Exactly. It's wonderful. Good luck. And I'm sure it's going to take off wonderfully with your passion and your attitude. So all good. Christine, I am fascinated by your story because I just tell us, how is it for a European woman? That sounds so stupid, but you know, for someone who is not familiar with all these countries, etc., to open a company, to run a company in Asia, also so successfully, because you have the tools of the hotel industry, you represent the best of the best. So tell us, share a little bit the Asian culture. I think you were, if I talk to you, so fascinated by these people, by the traditions. You just get so carried away. Share with us, what is it? What is it?
Well,
why are you still there?
One of the best that I represent for now close to 10 years is BAUR. So,
okay, right.
You know, it's, you know, it's we could talk about Asia and my passion for the market for another hour. It's so diverse, it's so rich, and how to, you know, to answer your question about how as a European you enter a market like that, it's actually by being humble, by being passionate, and by being willing to accept the culture, the tradition, and the different codes, because you know, China, India are very, very different countries, and that's the magic of it. From going to India and doing meetings in a sari, you know, and embracing the culture of India, which is so vibrant, so passionate. You know, there's life. Going into China, which is more reserved, more posed, and more calm, where you don't show so much the emotion, you know, it's a world apart. So the magic of this continent is to be able to, and the ability to do business is to be able to juggle the different culture. But what I find, if we focus on China in particular, because everybody talks about China, and I've heard so much about China in the press that, you know, and some countries trying to paint a very dark picture of China and their traditions. And, you know, I have to say, if you don't know the roots of China, it's very difficult to understand this market. So I always recommend our hotels to, if they want to be successful in China, to really understand the values, the roots, the traditions. You know, there's a lot of little superstitions in China. I think everybody knows number 4 is not a good number in China. But there's so many more that are important. Like, you know, and from a hotel operation perspective, Chinese like warm water. They don't like cold water. And it's a wellness attitude. It's a wellness thing. And if you are living in China, you have every corner of our streets herbal teas, you know, being made because it's good for your system. So, you know, there's so many little detail about China that is, to me, making sense. And sometimes you land in a place and you feel like a fish in a pond. And this is how I felt when I first arrived in Asia. And sometimes you have to follow your instincts, your gut feeling, and you feel in a place. And I've been 20 years in Asia and I never look back. And it's not, it's not that I don't miss France or Europe, but it's just that it's home, and I'm feeling, like, I give you an example. My team is laughing all the time. We just moved office in a bigger office in Shanghai, and I'm a big Feng Shui believer. Feng Shui is about the flow of how you place things in a room for the energy, right? And so I've asked the team to have a little frog. So this is a little lucky frog for business in the corner of our office. For Chinese New Year, we give, red envelope, because this is a nice gesture. We give a bit of money inside, but instead of giving the money like that as a tip, we give an envelope. So it's a nice way to put it together. So there's a lot of small things that, from a hotel perspective and from a European perspective, you learn to understand. Same with food. It's unbelievable when you do business in China. You've got to share a meal, and it has to be a round table because it's good for business flowing around the table. So there's a lot of little things like that makes a lot of sense, and that I feel very comfortable with. And I think it's also the fact that China is so modern. It's going 1,000,000 kilometers per hour. It's really going so fast. There's a trend every day or every week in China, a new social media platform, a new KOL who is specifically selling lipstick, for example, So there's so many things, popping up in China. And at the same time, it's very traditional. So I find that the combination of, understanding the values of your tradition, and getting together as a family, I think it also has been a very strong message in COVID. Family was very big, and I was blessed to have my parents for 6 months here, which was incredible. So I think all of this makes the culture, the Asian culture, quite phenomenal, and very enriching. Very enriching. And if you're able to open up your world and open up your eyes and be open-minded, you'll be able to blend very quickly. So I think also it's fascinating that if you take an example of China and the outbound travel market, there's only 10% of the population with a passport in China. So the outbound travel was really pre-COVID the tip of the iceberg, and we could go into numbers, but they're planning 286 million trips outbound from China by 2025. So it's going to be a market to look at and to understand. And I'm not saying convert your hotel into a Chinese hotel, but for instance, the BAUR has actually done a very beautiful amenity set for Chinese with beautiful teas that they've researched. Mr. Luxem has been in China. He's been communicating with KOL, with the market. We've had also Britta, the Director of Sales Marketing, coming very often. So it's also, building the bridge between China and Europe is very important by, being there, understanding the value, the tradition, and what they like.
Absolutely. I mean, so well said. And if, I think, I don't know how you feel, you guys, but, listening to you, I just was thinking this entire time, I'm so blessed I'm in this industry. I'm so blessed. This is so wonderful. This is why we are in this industry, because we get to share and see all these beautiful countries and the beautiful people. And that was really well said. I want to go now. I want to travel to China now.
Come, we're waiting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys,
but if I may just quickly, really, I would like to endorse what Christine just said, because for us, having worked with her for so many years, what she just said, she lives it, and she has helped us so tremendously in bridging the cultures and understanding the market, but at the same time, not getting sort of twisted in our own culture, so we can stay truly Swiss, 5-star hotel in Switzerland, but well catering, because she delivers us with the right understanding of the Chinese culture. It's really very good to have that bridging. And well, I can only endorse what she just said.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, guys, 1 hour passed like nothing, as you can see. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for this beautiful talk. I think it was extremely inspiring and motivating, and let's be creative. Let's continue to think out of the box. Let's, really not be afraid. Let's share everything, and yeah, let's spread love. I know this sounds so stupid, but let's not spread fear. That's really the most important thing. And I think there's a good future for all of us. We just need to hang in there now. Be patient, Christine, as you rightly said. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here.
Oh, thank you
for having us. Everybody who was here, have a great day.
It was wonderful. I have to hurry now because I see our team is setting up. Now we have our open air cinema, and tonight is the wonderful world of Amelie, and tomorrow Casablanca. So I just look out the windows. They're just setting up. Roman, you have to come and see the movies.
I just hop over.
I'm Zurich next week, promise.
And also we have put on beautiful boat rides on historic boats, so a lot of leisure activities. Please come to Zurich. We are here.
Hey, wonderful. You are full of inspiration and creativeness, guys.
And I hope we're gonna have drinks together in a personal mood again soon. Thanks you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
Guys, love you. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye. Cheers.